I'm going to go ahead and let's turn to your exhibits and building out your trial exhibit list. So I'm going to go over here into the exhibits trial category. We can see we have our claimant folder that we've already got created. And we're going to want to add some documents to this folder. And so let's run a search and find some documents that we hypothetically think could be a good fit for this folder for claimant exhibits. So I'm really just going to run a random search. Let's go ahead and select a save search, hot document search. So this is looking at any documents that had been coded as a hot document during our review in the discovery database. And at this point, again, I'm not going to actually go in and review these. I'm just going to kind of pick and choose at random. But let's say this document and this document and this document. I'm going to go ahead and add these documents to my claimant folder by just clicking bulk actions, hitting add to folder, choosing my claimant folder, and then hitting update. So I'm not going to touch on email family or date and family. I'm just going to order them. I'm just going to add them in the order that they were placed in here. And when I hit update, it's going to update those three at the same time. And I'm actually going to duplicate my screen so I can show you when I go back to documents, we've got these three documents in the claimant folder that are now labeled. I can make this a little bit longer as claimant 1, claimant 2, and claimant 3. This is going to be important to note when you are going through the exhibit stamping process. The order that you place these into this folder is going to be reflected on the stamp that's actually imaged onto that document. And so if you have a particular reason or process for why documents should be in a certain order, you're going to have to keep and pay attention to it as you go through that process of adding them. So we've added these three documents, and that's how you can add documents from a bulk action perspective. But if you needed to add them from a individual document level, I could go in and click into an individual document, and this is how you would go about adding it. You could say, yep, this is going to be one of my claimant exhibits. All you would need to do is click down and say, let's add it to my claimant folder and hit save. So if I add it to the claimant folder that way and then click save, it's going to add it as that next document in that order. It will add it as claimant 4. But if this was supposed to be claimant 2, I can click on this pencil and hit edit claimant and then say, I want this to be the second one and hit OK. So it'll be claimant 2, save. And then when I refresh this other page, you'll see that we now have, one of the things you'll notice is that we now have claimant 1, claimant 2, claimant 2, claimant 3. It's not going to automatically adjust any of the other ones. And so again, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to this as you go through this. And maybe I need to go into this one and re-edit this one to be claimant 4. Hit OK and hit save. And then I'll have my different claimants, 1, 2, 3, 4. So probably would have maybe a few more exhibits in here, but for the sake of this training, we're just going to keep moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and click into this document. And at this point, we're going to go through the exhibit stamping. Actually, I'm not going to click into it yet because what I want to do is first check what my exhibit stamping looks like in the settings. So I'm going to go back and toggle back and forth between more settings. And where I'm going to find this is under documents. You'll see folders, folder categories, document issues and fields and hot fields, all that stuff that we're accustomed to seeing. And then underneath here, we've got exhibit stamp template. So if I hit edit in here, This is going to show me what it's going to look like when I create an exhibit stamp. And the things I want to point out are going to be that the first thing you're going to see, this is what an exhibit stamp will look like, is going to be the folder name, in our case, claimant, followed by the word exhibit, which is why I don't recommend naming any of your folders after exhibit in any way, shape, or form. Because if I were to have named the folder claimant exhibit, when I stamp it, it's going to say claimant exhibit, which is the folder name, exhibit, which is kind of redundant. When you go ahead down here, you'll see that this is the prefix of the folder. So this is something we might want to look at before we go ahead and actually stamp the documents. And then the number, which again is going to be important for making sure that we don't have two claimant twos. And then down here, the last thing I want to point out is if you uncheck this, the background is going to be white. If you check this, it's going to be this background color of the folder. So you want to make sure that you're not using a folder color that is going to clash with black so that it's easy to see what it is titled. So I'm going to hit update. I didn't really make any changes to it. But the next thing we need to do is make sure that our folder is set up for success for what we want it to look like when we stamp these documents. So here is our folder in that same settings documents tab. And I want to edit this. So let's edit my claimant folder. So it's going to read claimant, the folder title, claimant, exhibit, followed by the prefix, which in this case is claimant as well. And so maybe I want to get rid of this and make it shorter. I'm going to go ahead and say CX. So it's going to read claimant folder CX1, claimant folder or claimant exhibit CX2. And then edit the color. Let's go with light orange and hit update. So now when I change this and go back here and refresh this, I should see it change from claimant 1, claimant 2, claimant 3 to CX1, CX2, CX3, CX4, and it is now all orange. So I think that we should be good to now start the stamping process. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the title of that document. And it takes me to view the document. And at this point, I'm ready to actually start stamping it. And what I'm going to do so is just next to the folder title, we see this blue stamp-like emoji kind of thing. If I click on it, it's going to prompt me to start using the claimant exhibit stamp. And it's going to place it here, and you have the ability to move it around. You can put it here, make it larger, make it smaller. What I want to do is make sure that it's not covering anything on the actual text of the document. And then you hit apply and next. You'll see claimant exhibit CX1, and it is orange. So this is exactly what we had anticipated it was going to look like when we went through that template. I'm going to hit apply and next. And it's going to take me to the next document. And it says, place it here. I can, again, move this however I want, and then hit apply and next. This is a very manual process where you're going to be doing this individually one by one. But that is to make sure that it's not covering anything on the actual text of the document. And you can hit apply and next, and apply and close. And you'll notice that it will switch and says that this document is currently being processed because the image is being re-imaged with that stamp on it. So this might take a little bit of time, shouldn't take too long. But one of the things I want to point out is that you want to make sure that everything is ready when you're going to go through that stamping process, that you are good to go. You have the documents in order that you want them to be in, that you have the right documents that you want them to be in. Because if you don't, it's a very, very manual process and kind of a hindrance to undo this process and then go through and redo it as well. So the reason I say that, let's go into one of these documents. Go see if this one is finished processing. There we go. It is finished re-imaging, claimant exhibit CX1. If I wanted to remove a stamp after the fact, what I have to do is actually remove it from the folder entirely. And then you have to remember which document it was and re-add it to the folder, which you could, but it's really something that I think is not the best process at the moment. Our team is currently looking in 2022 at making a lot of updates and improvements to the litigation suite specifically. So I'm looking forward to seeing those changes as they progress this year. But as of right now, I just like to point out that you want to make sure that you are double checking, dotting your T's, crossing your I's, which is not the way you should be saying that, but that's why you double check. And so if you ever did want to re-stamp or remove the stamp, you're going to have to remove it from the folder entirely and then add it back in.